DreAllDay.com.
Before we start, please like and comment on this video so I can get your feedback. Also, click that subscribe button so you can get all the new content I'm dropping on this channel. And the free book, the mental handbook, physical book, Work on Your Game University, just take care of the shipping and handling, send this right to your doorstep. Let's get started. What's going on, everybody? Dre Baldwin, DreAllDay.com. Had to get up close and personal for these last two NBA 2017 team previews. Today we are talking about the team that had the best record in the NBA last year, the team who had the MVP of the NBA last year, the team who just signed another former MVP this past summer. The team that finished second in the NBA last year is the runner-up, lost in Game 7 of the NBA Finals, the Golden State Warriors, who set a new regular season record for wins, 73 and 9. 73 regular season wins, best record of all time in the regular season. However, they will not go down as one of the greatest teams of all time simply because they didn't finish the deal and win the championship. Let's take a look at their roster first, and then we'll get into what we need to get into with this team, as there are several things to get into. Ian Clark, a shooting guard, probably not going to see much of him this upcoming season, but I think he'll get some chances just because I think this team is going to be very, very good in the regular season again. Stephen Curry, we know his story, 28 years old. He is in his prime right now. I think Steph Curry is in his prime right now, and his prime is going to last, I think, for a few seasons. He's only making $12 million a year, so he's in line to get, I don't know, $1 billion contract pretty soon from the Golden State Warriors. Kevin Durant is making more than twice what Steph Curry makes, $26.5 million this year. He's 27. He's younger than Stephen Curry, but it seems like he's been in the NBA longer than Stephen Curry, and I believe he actually has. But Steph Curry was in college for longer than Kevin Durant. Draymond Green, 26 years old. That's all we got to say about Draymond Green. $15 million a year. Andre Iguodala, $11 million a year. He's 32. He's the veteran of this group. He's actually the third oldest guy on this team, and he's the oldest guy of the guys who've been around the longest. For a few years, he's the oldest one. Sean Livingston, point guard at 31 years old, great backup point guard. He could be the starting point guard on a successful team that makes the playoffs. I wouldn't say a contender, but Sean Livingston can start on a team that makes the playoffs. But coming off the bench, he's great backup point guard to have. James Michael McAdoo didn't play hardly at all in the NBA Finals. Not going to play much, I don't think, this upcoming season, just based on the amount of the embarrassment of riches that the team has. He'll get some chances, but I don't think he's going to get to play too much on this team. Zaza Pachulia signed with Golden State. A good pickup for them. He's a rugged, hard-nosed guy who will grab some rebounds, throw his body in there, pick up some fouls, maybe get you a few points in the post. He's not a guy you're going to run any plays for or anything like that, but a body to have in the paint is what he is. Anderson Varejao. I forgot Klay Thompson. Klay Thompson, we can't forget, is an all-star. He's making $16 million a year. He makes more than Steph Curry. So there's a lot of people on this team making more money. Actually, not a lot, like 3 people making more money than Steph Curry on this team. Well, he should be making more than he should be making twice as much as anybody else on this team. But of course, that's all just technicalities, the way the money shook out at certain times and deals people agreed to at certain times. But that will be fixed in the very near future, I'm pretty sure. Klay Thompson, 26 years old at the two-guard position. This team is primed to be very successful for a long time. Just looking at the ages of the players that they have on this team. And we know Klay being an all-star, Draymond at 26, an all-star. They're both the same age. Steph Curry at 28, KD at 27. And Sean Livingston and Andre Iguodala are the only guys over the age of 30 who are in their main core guys who are going to play. Just looking at their, this is a team. Steph Curry, we got 28, KD 27, Draymond 26, Klay 26. They got a pretty good team. Zaza at 32, Iguodala 32, and Sean Livingston 31. Anderson Varejao, 33 years old. I don't know what Anderson Varejao has left in the tank. He was at one time putting up some really good stats. He was averaging a good 15 and 10 playing for the Cleveland Cavaliers, even getting himself a few assists, but then he got injured. He gets injured often. He's a guy who gets injured a lot. Tried to do a lot of flopping in the NBA Finals last year. It didn't really work. It worked a couple times, but a lot of times it didn't work. And when the Golden State Warriors didn't have Andrew Bogut to play down there, they had to put in Varejao, and I think that played a role in maybe the difference between them winning the championship and losing it. David West, veteran guy coming from the Spurs last year. He's obviously chasing the championship right now. He is definitely, I think we can definitely label him as chasing a championship. Now he's signed with the Golden State Warriors, where they can use a veteran presence guy, hard-nosed guy, a respected guy. I don't know how much he can come in the game and actually give you as a player, but I think his presence helps the team. Even though he hasn't won a championship before, I just think his presence will help a team like the Golden State Warriors. So they have a good balance of veteran guys who are over 30, who have been around, who have some experience, who can help just keep the cohesion of the unit. And with all this talent that they have, all the egos that are involved with having so much talent, they definitely will need something like that. And of course, the coach, Steve Kerr. So let's see what we think about the Warriors coming into this season. We know that 2 years ago they won the championship. Last year they set the record for regular season wins. They had the MVP in Stephen Curry. They were right there on the doorstep of winning another championship. They were up 2-0 on the Cavs, and everyone pretty much said it was over. And then we know what happened after that. We don't even have to talk about all of that. But what changes did they make this season? The most important changes, one is that they did lose their assistant coach, Luke Walton, which I think will, I don't know if it's going to hurt them, but I think Luke Walton is a good guy to have on your bench. So losing him doesn't help. Let's put it that way. So Luke Walton's gone, but talking about players that they lost, Harrison Barnes, they lost at the forward position. They replaced him with Kevin Durant, so I say they actually won in that transaction. And then Andrew Bogut. Andrew Bogut, they lost as a center. He's going down to Dallas along with Harrison Barnes. That is a loss. That's a net loss there. They replaced him with who? I guess you could say David West is a guy they picked up. He's a guy they picked up while Bogut left. There's no other big on this roster, and Jaja Pachulia, they don't match up to Andrew Bogut. So the Warriors lost in that one, losing Andrew Bogut. Now you may think, and I talked about this in depth when I was talking about Game 7 of the NBA Finals. If you didn't see my Game 7 review the night of Game 7, you need to go look that up. But even though Andrew Bogut was not the most talented player on his team, he wasn't the guy getting the ball the most on his team, his presence may very well have been the difference between whether they could win that NBA Finals series or not. Once he got injured, that opened up a lot of opportunities for the Cavs, and it opened up some weaknesses for the Warriors, because when he wasn't playing, then they had to put guys in the game like James Michael McAdoo, who really shouldn't have been in the game. He shouldn't have been playing at all. And those are the things that you see when you get deeper into rosters. Even Anderson Varejao, he shouldn't have been playing as much as he was playing in the finals last year. If Bogut hadn't been hurt, he would not have been playing as much as he was. So it's not really the starters that really have the issue when a player gets injured. It's the guys behind him and the guys behind them. Because now everybody gets to play a few more minutes, and certain players shouldn't be playing so many minutes. Certain players, there's pretty much a limit to how effective they'll be in a certain number of minutes. They go over that number, then they start to actually hurt you. So that's what happened when Bogut went out. It wasn't actually the loss of Bogut, because the starting lineup was still pretty solid. But then it's when you get to that next level, and the next level where you had to play Michael McAdoo for a few minutes, you had to play Anderson Varejao way too many minutes in the finals. That's where they lost the game. And those are small things that add up over the game. So it's not necessarily just one guy's stats, but it's those small things that add up over time. And again, I talked about that in the Game 7 video. Overall, this team looks just as good as they looked last year overall. Again, they're going to have to figure out that center thing. Now, of course, with the small ball type of game that they play, maybe they won't have to figure it out. But I think there's going to come a point in the season where they are going to need a solid man in the paint, solid big man in the paint, someone who can protect the rim. Because Draymond Green, Andre Iguodala, Clay, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant can protect the rim a little bit, but I'm not sure how much of a rim protector you're going to call Kevin Durant. I think he's more of a help side guy who will come over and maybe block a few shots and get in the way because he has those long limbs. But I don't see Kevin Durant as a guy who could just be hanging around the basket area, just blocking everything just because he's such of a presence. I mean, Kevin Durant is long and tall and he can jump, but he ain't no Roy Hibbert. He ain't no Andrew Bogut. He doesn't have that body frame to take the pounding of bashing bodies with people down there in the paint. So I wouldn't say Kevin Durant is a rim protector. He can protect the rim, but he's not a rim protector. Two completely different things. I think there's going to come a point in the season they're going to need something for that. They're going to need an answer to that question, because they're going to play against a team that has a big man who they're giving the ball, the opponent's giving the ball to, and if the Warriors don't have anybody that can guard that guy, that's a problem. Maybe a LaMarcus Aldridge and Pau Gasol combination in San Antonio is the first one I think of. DeAndre Jordan just playing above the rim in the LA Clippers. Maybe even somebody like Blake Griffin on the Clippers. I know a guy like Draymond can guard Blake Griffin. Maybe even KD can guard Blake Griffin. But once Blake Griffin elevates off the ground, neither one of those guys can elevate with a Blake Griffin. I don't even think Kevin Durant can elevate with a Blake Griffin. And Kevin Durant definitely can't body up with a Blake. If Blake just decided to put his body on KD, KD's not going to do it. KD can't stop him from doing what he's going to do. not to say Blake's going to get 50 on him, but he's not going to stop him from doing what he's going to do. And we can say the same thing, of course, in the other direction. So that is one thing that I think they need to handle. But then with this starting lineup, this is a deadly lineup that they have. We know it will be Steph, we know KD, we know Draymond, and we know Klay Thompson will be in there. Who's going to be that fifth starter? I don't know, but between those four guys, man, that's a hell of a lot of firepower. You got all four guys can hit the three. All four guys can take their man off the dribble, even though Draymond's ball handling isn't, I mean, he ain't just breaking people down, like he ain't crossing anybody over like that, but he can put the ball on the floor and he can get to the rim. Kevin Durant, we know what he can do. We know what Steph Curry can do. Klay Thompson is not the best ball handler out there, but he's maybe the best shooter out there aside from his own teammate, Steph Curry. They got some firepower. Now, what we're going to have to figure out, or what Steve Kerr is going to have to figure out, not Steph Curry, but Steve Kerr is going to have to figure out is how to make this work. How are all the egos going to fit? Because the egos do have to fit. You just added a guy who's been an MVP, who's averaged 30 points a game, who is a max contract player to a team that already has an MVP, averaging 30, who's won a championship. So how is that all going to fit? How effective can a guy like Draymond Green be when he doesn't get to handle the ball as much as he did last year? Watching him on Team USA, he was not an effective player. He wasn't even a factor, actually. Looking at him on Team USA. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that what happens on Team USA is automatically going to transfer to what happens on the Golden State Warriors. I think Draymond is much more valuable to Golden State than he was to Team USA. But when he doesn't have the ball in his hands a lot, where they can't like run the offense through him and let him do his ball handling and passing. I mean, he didn't even lead the team in assists last year. So when he's not able to do that as much, I think he's still going to get plenty of opportunity to do that, but not as much, because now you got a guy like Kevin Durant on the floor. Kevin Durant can bring the ball up the floor. Kevin Durant can create his own shot. Kevin Durant can do these things himself. So if Draymond's not getting the ball as much, is he going to be as effective as a player as he was last year on this team? Now, last season, he averaged 9.5 rebounds, 7 assists, and 14 points. The guy put up, those are pretty good fantasy stats. Any of you had him on your fantasy team, you're probably very happy with Draymond Green. 35 minutes a game. He played 81 out of 82 games. 39% from the free throw line. Only 70% from the free throw line, 39% from the three-point line, and 49% from the floor. Guy put up great overall stats, but again, not being able to have the ball in his hands as much, because KD does need to get the ball. Kevin Durant is not Harrison Barnes, Warriors fan, so I don't know if anybody thinks this, or just basketball fans in general. You're not going to just stick Kevin Durant in the corner or on the wing and just say, okay, just catch the ball and snipe away from the three-point line. Yes, he will do that, but Kevin Durant got to get the damn ball. He has to get the ball, and Draymond's touches are going to go away so he can get the ball. Klay Thompson's touches will go away so KD can get the ball. That has to happen. Kevin Durant and Steph Curry are the two best players on the team. They are the priorities in terms of touching the ball. I don't think either of them will be as effective as a guy not getting the ball as much. So they're both going to give up a little bit, but I think they should be the top two priorities. Klay Thompson, his touches will go down. Draymond's touches will go down. How effective will those guys be when they're not getting as many touches? And one thing that I think we all know, if you know basketball at all, you know that just because someone's really efficient when they're touching the ball 20 times a game, if you cut that 20 in half to 10, it doesn't mean they're still going to be just as efficient in 10 touches, because the mental game comes in. Like, how engaged is this player when he's only touching the ball 10 times when he's used to getting it 20 times? How engaged is this player when he's making X number of dollars, but he's getting the ball the fourth most times of the people on his team for an entire season? How engaged is that guy going to be on defense? How does he feel about his teammates? What happens the first time this team runs into a rough stretch? Maybe they lose a couple games in a row. What happens at that point? So I think the egos need to figure themselves out between the players. That's not really a coach thing. That's a players thing, which is why it's good they have a veteran guy like a David West. I think he's a great pickup. Andre Iguodala, Sean Livingston, those are solid pickups there. That's number one. And number two, the coach got to figure out how's that ball going to get distributed, because it got to get distributed somehow. You got a lot of guys who could do their thing. I think Klay, KD, Steph Curry would all be the top scorers on their teams if they were all on different teams. Somebody's going to be the third leading scorer in that group. And will that guy be okay being the third leading scorer for, who knows, the next 6 years? While these guys are all on the same team, I don't see anyone leaving. So how is that going to work out? That's the question that I have with the Golden State Warriors. Now let's fast forward, because I think many people think, looking at this team, that they're going to go back to the NBA Finals, and I wouldn't disagree with you to think that they can go to the Finals. I think they will definitely have the best record in the Western Conference, barring any injuries. They will have the best record in the Western Conference, maybe even the best record in the whole NBA. The challenge is they got to beat the team that won the championship last year, the Cleveland Cavaliers. Now, we know who the Cavs have. We're not going to go too deep into the Cavs roster, but let's talk about the Warriors matching up with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Draymond Green and Andre Iguodala obviously had the job of going up against LeBron James. LeBron James is better than both of those guys. I think LeBron James is better than everybody on the Warriors roster. But picking up Kevin Durant, again, replace Harrison Barnes with Kevin Durant. If we just did it in a vacuum, not thinking about the mental side of things, then yeah, Kevin Durant's probably going to make some shots and make some plays that Harrison Barnes couldn't or didn't make last year in the finals, which could make the difference. But again, Kevin Durant's not used to touching the ball 4 times a game like Harrison Barnes was last year in the finals. So it doesn't translate over directly that way. So some people thinking, some people said when KD signed, well, if you just replace Harrison with KD, the Warriors win the championship. Yes. And in a video game, yes, but this ain't in real life, ain't a video game. The human beings have feelings and emotions, and they got things that go through their minds when they're not getting what they think they should be getting. That's why I keep coming back to the egos thing on this team. They had to work that out. But let's fast forward to the NBA Finals. Now, we have no idea how the Warriors are going to play this season, but let's fast forward to the finals. You got the Cavs against the Warriors again. I am not shooing in the Warriors to win the championship in 2017. I'm not saying that they can't win it, but they are not a shoe-in to win the championship just because they do from just looking at their starting lineup. They had the most talented lineup roster maybe that I've seen as long as I've been watching the NBA. All this talent in one lineup. Just looking at the starting lineup, not the whole roster. There's a lot of damn talent that they got. That doesn't mean they're going to win the championship. Championships are won in the game. They're not won on paper. They're not won just because you got the most talent. They're won by the team who plays the best when it matters the most. Last year, the Warriors had the most talent. They didn't win the championship. Now, a lot of teams have had the most talent before it didn't win. When the Heat first came together, their first season, 2011, they had the most talent, but they didn't win the championship. They made it to the championship, but they didn't win the championship. Team USA has sent the most talent to international competition every year since '92. And not every year did we win. 2002 we didn't win, 04 we didn't win, 06 we didn't win. We had the most talent those years, just didn't win. So having the most talent doesn't guarantee a victory, especially when you're going up against a team in the Cleveland Cavaliers who learn how to play together. They learn how to make it all work. And one trump card that the Cleveland Cavaliers have that the Warriors don't is that they got the best player in the world in LeBron James on their team. And we'll get to that when we talk about the Cleveland Cavaliers tomorrow. And there was one thing that people said. I remember last year after the first 2 games of the finals, after I had predicted that the Cavs would win, a lot of people were in my comments saying, Dre, you picked the Cavs. And there was a big celebration for basketball fans or Warriors fans at that time after 2 games. And a lot of people were saying, well, the reason that the Warriors are going to win because the Warriors are a team in all capital letters, while the Cavs are just individuals. I don't know why people always cop out to that conversation. It's not actually true. Any 2 teams make the NBA Finals. They're both very much, in all capital letters, teams. No one player takes a team to the NBA Finals. I don't care how good they are. LeBron James has been good for 10 years. He has never taken the team to the finals by himself. He's been to some finals that he lost, but it's never just one guy. It's definitely about, if your team gets to the finals, you are a team in all capital letters. So just because you win or lose doesn't make you any more or less of a team. It just means you won or you lost. But the Cleveland Cavaliers are a team just as much as the Warriors are. Actually, the Warriors have to kind of figure out what kind of team they are now. Now that they made some changes and they added a guy like Kevin Durant with the kind of game that he has, the kind of resume that he has, that has to be, that got to be figured out. I don't know how many times I got to say that. So what am I going to say for the Warriors this year? They will finish with the best record in the Western Conference, I believe, barring any catastrophic injuries. They will be the number 1 seed, obviously, in the West. I think it's going to come down to them going up against a team like the only team I think that can get them a serious challenge in the Western Conference in a series with all rosters as presently constructed, mid-September, me recording this, only team that can get them a game in the series is going to be the Spurs. And when I say a game, I mean like get them a challenge to win the whole series. San Antonio Spurs. I think even OKC, if they maybe add one piece, with all the youth they have, the length and the athleticism. Now, of course, losing KD takes away a good amount of that, but they still got a lot of it without him. For some reason, I think they could kind of be competitive against the Warriors with a guy like Russell Westbrook being the machine that he is. I don't think they can beat Golden State, but I think they can, for some reason, something's just telling me that they could give them a series. And that might happen. OKC may get the 8 seed against the 1 seed. That'd be fun to watch. Very, very fun to watch. I hope that happens. That's one thing I hope happens. But As far as winning the Western Conference, I think the Spurs are possible. I think the Clippers are possible. Even if the Clippers keep their same flawed roster together, I think them against the Warriors in the Western Conference Finals will be must-see TV. Can we all agree to that? I think we can. And then, who's the other team? I think Portland is up and coming, but I don't see Portland beating Golden State in the series. I just don't see it happening. I don't think they had the firepower. Unfortunately, Portland's best players are in their backcourt guards, but Golden State's best players are guards, and Golden State's guards are better than Portland's guards. I just think Steph Curry is better than Damian Lillard, and I think Klay Thompson is... I would say him and CJ McCollum may end up being a wash coming into this season as they play this season. I think by the end of the year, you could say those two guys are a wash, maybe. So far, Klay Thompson got it on CJ McCollum, way more achievements. But I think they could end up a wash, but I think Steph Curry is better than Damian Lillard. And then you look at the rest of the roster, just take the guards away. You got KD, Draymond Green, Iguodala, Sean Livingston against, who's the four you putting up on the floor for Portland against that four? I don't think Portland really has the firepower. They got a good team. They got some great young pieces, but I don't think they had the firepower to really compete in a way that they could actually win the series. I don't see that happening, but I may be wrong. So that's my prediction for the Golden State Warriors. The only team I see in the West competing with them to win the West will be the Spurs. Can they win the title? Yes, of course they can. Will they? That remains to be seen. It's too early for me to say. I'm not going to predict the championship team before the season starts, but I will before the NBA Finals starts. Everybody, tomorrow we got one more team left, the defending champion Cleveland Cavaliers. Questions, comments, praise, concerns, criticisms about this one, leave it down there in the comments. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Work on your game. DreAllDay.com.